Hey everybody, this is Zombie with Zombie Tactical Training, and I have a crazy video for you today. This is out of Las Vegas. It's Las Vegas PD, or Las Vegas Metro Police Department, excuse me, chasing down a murder suspect, and it is an absolutely crazy video. We're going to learn a little bit here about what happens to bullets when you shoot through automobile glass, about magazine changes, and we're going to talk about thinking clearly during a shootout or a very stressful event that you may find yourself in as a self-defender or a law enforcement officer. But without further ado, let's watch this video.
Charlie 4 in pursuit of the suspect vehicle. It's going to be southbound Mojave. Shots fired! Shots fired!
Copy. Southbound Mojave from where? 751, I couldn't copy you.
Be advised, shots fired! Shots fired!
What's the location?
Southbound Mojave passing Bonanza. Black. Shots fired still.
Charlie 4, I copy. 751, you copy?
Give me the air unit. Shots fired! Shots fired! Give me the air unit. Still southbound Mojave approaching Charleston.
Southbound Mojave approaching Charleston. Shots still being fired.
Occupied 2 times. HMA. Driver's got a bald head, tattoos, black shirt. Passenger's got a white shirt. Going westbound Charleston from Mojave.
Copy.
6 away from monitoring. Still westbound Charleston approaching 28th. You're 6 away confirming pursuit, and how many do you have with you? Got one more unit. I've been shot at.
Are you injured?
On DPAC with the air unit following the vehicle. We want to try to combine channels.
For Charlie 1, are you injured?
It's Charlie 4. I'm not injured.
Okay, copy.
6, I'm going to switch over to DTAC so we can... Watch out! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired again!
Copy. Where are you at, Charlie 4?
Going northbound eastern from Charleston. Hey, back up! He's shooting. Get down! Hey, the other one's up there! Hey, the other one right up there!
Well, that was an intense video. So now let's go over it, and I'll have some critiques here of this officer. Now, first of all, I want to commend this officer for having the drive and the killer instinct to keep following these obviously very dangerous criminals. That's something you can't really teach. That kind of killer instinct in defenders, at least in my experience, it's usually something you're kind of born with, and this officer is definitely born with that. And you're probably, that of giving him so much praise, you're probably going to find it a little weird that I'm going to criticize his gun handling skills pretty severely here as we go through it here. But as of right now, he's just following the suspect, and you can tell he's doing these kind of zigzag motions, trying to make it harder for the shooters. There's two people in that vehicle, and they're both firing at him. So he's doing these zigzag motions to try to make himself a harder target, which is actually a smart idea because, I mean, it's very hard to shoot from a vehicle and hit something, quite honestly, and it's even harder when the vehicle's purposely moving locations to make it harder for you to acquire a target. So that is actually very good tactic on his part. He also does a great job keeping the everybody informed via the radio of what's going on and what the current danger is. He's also doing a fairly good job of keeping his distance. And if you saw from the earlier video, he actually warns that one police officer pulls ahead of him in the SUV to back off a little bit. Obviously, if you're a self-defender, you wouldn't be chasing somebody like this. Normally, you'd let the cops handle it. But for law enforcement, you have no choice. You have to confront these situations. So if you find yourself in that type of circumstance, you need to stay back far enough that they're not going to be able to get a good beat on you. Or if, say, it's a driver only that's shooting at you, then stay primarily on the right side or passenger side of the vehicle. It'll be harder for them to acquire a good sight picture of you. Now, we're going through some red lights, and you can see this other police officer picks up the chase. And when I believe it's the next light, he turns and he opens fire on that SUV. If you watch follow the link to the original video in the description, the bad guys got hits on these police cars. Several rounds hit their vehicles. I know that SUV in front of this officer just got nailed pretty bad. And I think even one of the rounds hit the tire of the SUV up there. Now, when the suspects turn on this road here is when this officer decides it's time to go to work. And you can see him pull out his gun. It's kind of like he says, you know what, enough of this. And deadly force is authorized, is kind of, the decision process I imagine he went through. Now, right here, he's going to gun his vehicle. He's got his gun out. He thinks about transferring that weapon to his weak arm and shooting out the window. I'm really glad he didn't do that. So he decides to shoot straight through the glass, which when you do that, I've told you before, you have no idea where your bullets are going. Some say they could go up, they could go down, they could go all over the place, they could go through one of these innocent people's houses and kill them. They can go anywhere. Now, every police department has different regulations governing when they can fire from moving vehicles, and apparently Las Vegas Metro Police Department, based on my research, allows it if there's no other alternative, and it's needed to protect life. And I think this officer is clearly in the right here. I have some problems with the way he does his shooting. I would say this though, if you're a law enforcement officer and you have to shoot through the window, some of the trainings that I've gone through, you'll fire a couple rounds through the window to kind of to break a hole in there, and then I've seen where you'll put your barrel actually into the bullet hole and fire through the window that way. You have to be careful while doing that though, because with a Glock, if that slide is pushed back just a little bit, the weapon will not function. It's a safety feature of the Glock, and I believe a couple other firearm manufacturers do the same thing, but Glock I know for sure. If that slide is pushed back a little bit, it will not function. So it's kind of a difficult thing to do with a Glock. You can actually buy little blockers that'll go where your flashlight rail is, and it'll make it so you can actually shoot through windows and things like that, just as an FYI. But that is about the safest way if you have to shoot through auto glass to do it, is to fire one or two rounds through the window to cause hopefully a big enough hole that you're able to put the barrel right through that hole and continue firing. Even then, it's not a 100%, but it's better than just firing shots through glass and they're ending up God knows who, God knows where. Now, when he pulls up alongside is when he starts getting some pretty decent hits here. So he's gonna speed up, and I don't have a problem with at all. I think this would probably be the best option. So open window, and now we got to talk about something here. This is an absolutely atrocious magazine change. Yeah, you put the magazine in wrong. He switched the gun to his non-dominant hand. This could have gotten him killed. So work on your magazine changes. This is unacceptable, I'm afraid. I suspect a lot of the reload problems have to do with him not thinking real clearly with everything that's going on, and that happens. But that is a very dangerous mistake, and I strongly urge all of you to practice your magazine changes and practice them doing them inside of a vehicle, whether you're law enforcement or self-defender. Now here he opens fire on the vehicle. The other one person got out of the vehicle and ran upstairs, which this is a school, by the way, that they just rammed into. Now he fires an awful lot of rounds at this driver, and not one of them hits. Now you'll hear at the end of this whole thing, when you watch the version in the beginning with the audio, you hear one last boom. That boom is from another police officer who came up to the back of this black SUV and fired one round from his shotgun, which hit the driver and killed him. So the officer, this police officer whose body camera we've been watching, did not score one hit with all the rounds that he fired. So that goes to show you that it can look like you're doing a lot, you can make a lot of noise, it can look really cool, but if you're not getting hits on target, it really doesn't mean anything. I don't want to be too hard on this officer because he did a great, he did a lot of things really well. He had that drive to catch these guys. He wasn't afraid of them, and he did a good job communicating. We just had some problems with his gun handling. He definitely needs to work on his magazine changes, and I think he also needs to work out on his equipment layout because it looked to me like that mag that he got wasn't where it should have been when he grabbed it. Um, Thinking clearly during a shootout. And I mean, one of the things that you can do to make sure you do proper magazine changes and stuff when you're under pressure is to just practice that stuff constantly to where it becomes just automatic, where it's just automatic. And that's what will happen when that day comes and you're under pressure. You will be able to do it without even thinking. But all in all, this officer did an outstanding job. I salute him for his courage and his outstanding driving ability, and for his the killer instinct to chase these suspects down and make sure they don't hurt anybody else. I would just ask him to take a couple more classes with firearms and let's tighten up those skills a little bit.